We have John Watson now with us, Formula One driver across the 70s and 80s. He did a 10-year career in F1, won 5 times, including the British Grand Prix, finished 3rd in the 1983 Championship, and he's going to join us after 8 o'clock to reflect on his career. Graham Hunter will join us to talk all things Gareth Bale, Real Madrid related. Zinedine Zidane wants him gone and wants him gone quickly. And we'll talk to Nick Royle and Niall O'Brien about the cricket in Lords this afternoon, which was quite extraordinary. England bowled out the hosts for 85 in Lords, which is quite the start. We have Kieran Cunningham with us from the Irish Daily Star. Hello. Hello. And Richie McCormack with us as well.
Joseph, you all right?
Very well. Dan McDonald will join us momentarily to give us a brief synopsis of Ireland 0, Portugal 4. The under-19s bowing out at the penultimate step in their attempt to reach the under-19s European Championships final against a very good Portuguese side. So Dan will fill us in on how that game went. Not well, obviously, is the short version. And then we'll be joined by Nick Royle and Niall O'Brien to talk cricket as well. I know, Kieran, you were watching some of this afternoon. Richie would have had it on outside as well.
Cricket and the under-19s. You're starting with cricket. Yeah, watch both. And I'm old enough to remember when this was rugby country. Then it became hockey country for a while.
It's golf country.
Rowing country briefly. Golf country earlier in the week, but now it's cricket country again. Now it's cricket country again.
It must have been incredibly dramatic stuff.
It was
the morning session. I mean,
yeah,
it was freakish almost in a way, because very few sides, very few top tier Test nations get bowled out for 85, get bowled out for 85 at home, and get bowled out for 85 at home by a side they're playing Test cricket for just the 3rd time.
Yeah, and a side that's just won the World Cup. I know Test cricket is obviously different to the World Cup, but there was still, they had 5 of their World Cup players played today, and the 5 World Cup players contributed 7 runs between them.
Yeah, Jason Roy was making his debut at Test level, having scored 443 runs during the course of the World Cup, and was gone for...
I would say there was a few things at play that I would say there was an element of a World Cup hangover with the World Cup players. I think they definitely
possibly literally.
Yeah, I would say there was complacency and arrogance that they took Ireland for granted. I would say on the Irish side there was a fair amount of anger went into the performance, because Ireland have been Irish cricket would feel they should be at the World Cup. And and the way the changes were made, it was made very difficult for them. They were pushed out of it effectively. So I think a lot of things came into the mix. But it is remarkable. I've been to Lords in the past when I lived in London, and it really is. Somewhere Boris Johnson would be very much at home. It very much is. It's old England. It's Eton. It's Harrow. It's Oxford, Oxbridge. It's
school ties.
It's all school tie and cream teas, marvellous cakes.
We might start your Newsround, Richie, with the cricket. So just you might give people the actual scoreline as things stand. Have they wrapped up for this evening?
They haven't actually. England have just begun their second innings. There's around, I'd say, 15, 16 hours remaining this evening, possibly less. It already looks, though, highly unlikely that Ireland's historic test with England will make the full allotted 4 days. On an incredible morning for Ireland at the home of cricket, England were bowled out for just 85 runs. Tim Murtagh was Ireland's hero with the ball, taking 5 wickets for the loss, incredibly, of just 13 runs. After a bright start, Ireland's lower order crumbled as they were bowled out for 207, giving them a first innings lead of 122 runs. It was Andy Balbirnie that top scored for Ireland with 55. England's second innings just underway. Rory Burns and Jack Leach at the crease, but no score as of yet.
So Ireland's 207 is not a phenomenal day either.
No,
it was incredibly green wicket actually as well. I think it aided the bowlers big style. I don't think any of the batsmen were.
Yeah, you would still fancy England to probably win it. It's not a massive lead.
They'll get over this freakish first innings, get their house in order, and probably
and it's a massive kick up the arse. They'll get absolutely slaughtered in the press, etc. And I think they'll become out firing there.
So we just frame this as an amazing day for Irish cricket at Lords, just their 3rd ever full Test match to put in a performance like this. And for Tim Murtagh, 5 wickets for 13 runs. This is the earliest 5-wicket haul by a bowler in a Test at Lords fore's going back to the 1860s.
It's most economical,
Now he's English born, but he's from a very well known Irish cricket family. Like his uncle, his name escapes me now, but he would be a well known cricket historian here. He played himself. He played. His another uncle played. So he would be very much embedded in the sport in Ireland, even though he's English born.
Michael Vaughan, former England captain on the BBC. This is an embarrassment. No other words can describe what we've seen. We've seen this so often by England when the ball moves around. He was saying, my wife's Irish. She's been trying to ring me for half an hour now, but I'm not answering, and it's staying that way, said Michael Vaughan. Tim Murtagh, who's now on the honours board. If you take 5 wickets, you go up on this board at Lords, and as we said, he's done it in the most economical fashion ever, which is quite extraordinary. He said, I'm not quite sure what's happened in the last 2 hours. I'd say he couldn't believe it. It's going to be amazing to get his take on it all.
I think they started at 11 o'clock, obviously. They're wrapped up by lunch. England
7 minutes before lunch, England were all out.
It was at 23, I think it was 23.4 overs, which was the shortest innings in terms of span that England had played at home. Like all of their the other in the top 5 were all on different tours, be it down in Melbourne, be it in Sydney, be it Johannesburg, whatever. But this is like them being humbled on home soil at the home of cricket by this upstart Test nation.
Yeah, because it was like a virus. Because when the early wickets fell, you thought, somebody will just stand up and hit 40 or 50 and they'll just, they'll steady themselves. But it didn't. They all just kept falling like skittles. It was bizarre in a way. But I think it's great because the last couple of weeks, because all year round, like if we were in here, generally we'd be talking about soccer, GA or rugby, and then maybe golf at different times or horse racing or whatever. But it's the big sports that dominate. And the last few weeks, a lot of the smaller sports have made quite a splash, which is great because there's great stories everywhere.
There's been a nice variety actually to work over the last few months, I've even found. And you tweeted something which I was just saying to somebody last night. Okay. And I was saying this is a good thing. Like I've really enjoyed the fact that there has been no big GAA
controversy.
There's been no Newbridge or nowhere nonsense. There's been no Davy Fitzgerald versus somebody. There's been nothing catching fire in that way. It's been actually genuinely, for the first time in a couple of years, just about the sport on the pitch, which has been, I think, quite good. I haven't missed the nonsense.
And even when you think about it, a lot of the controversies often originate with pundits. Yeah. Because it's one thing. I know I sometimes joked about this before, that 63%, or I'd make up a statistic of sports stories in Ireland, or something a pundit said, or people reacting to what a pundit said. Yeah. But maybe because, remember, it was very well ventilated that RTE new head of sport Declan McBennett had sent a shot across the bows of pundits that he didn't want personalised attacks and that needed a different approach. And maybe that's part of the reason that we're not getting that kind of stuff as much.
And part of it for sure, and then just the Newbridge stuff hasn't cropped up. I haven't missed it, I must say. Dan McDonald is on the line. We'll go to him in just 1 second, Dan. Stand by, because Richie, your next story is about Dundalk's match, where I'm sure Dan is focusing on now.
Yeah, Dundalk welcoming Azerbaijani champions Karabakh to Oriel Park tonight for the first leg of their Champions League second qualifying round tie. After missing last week's second leg in Riga, Michael Duffy comes in for John Mountney. So Dundalk line out with Gary Rogers in goal, the back four of Sean Gannon, Sean Hoare, Andy Boyle and Dame Massey. In midfield it's Chris Shields, Jamie McGrath and Robbie Benson, and then either side of Pat Hooban in front you have Michael Duffy and Patrick McElhaney. Karabakh reached the group phase of last season's Europa League and the groups of the Champions League the year prior, and Dundalk head coach Vinnie Persson knows the size of the task at hand this evening.
Karabakh are up there with one of the better sides we've played against over the years, in the last 6-7 years, because of how technically how good they are on the ball. I think that gives them an advantage over some of the other teams we played against. So we're going to have to go up to another level, and that's been the challenge to the players. We spoke about it in the off season about Europe and what Europe means to this group. They want to be challenged by Europe, so it is a big challenge for us. But at the same time, these are the games you want to test yourself in. It is Champions League football, and the rewards in terms of the next round are huge for us. So we'll have a go. We certainly won't be. We won't feel that the tie isn't there to be won. We'll feel we have an opportunity to win the tie, albeit we know it's a very, very difficult tie.
Dan McDonald of the Irish Independent with us. Dan, we'll get your thoughts ahead of this Dundalk match in a moment, but Ireland 0, Portugal for the under-19s bow out was not the result they wanted, to say the least. What kind of game was it?
I mean, it was I think there was the goal from class. Probably, it was evident to a degree, although there were probably key moments of the game. I mean, at 1-0, Ireland had two very, very good chances. The penalty at 1-0, it was a soft concession for 2-0, and the fourth goal came in injury time. So, I mean, by margins, it could have swung in a very different direction, the game. But at the same time, I mean, the better team went through. I mean, Portugal are becoming a dominant team at underage level. They're becoming a real force, and they're expected to be a force over the next 10 years. And this wasn't, as has been well documented, and while Tom Owen hasn't been using that as an excuse, this wasn't even Ireland's best team. Ireland were missing 10 to 12 players, including a couple who played in their last match. So the odds were stacked against them, and I guess it showed eventually.
Meanwhile, we can hear the tunes are pumping. You're at Oriel Park. Vinnie Perth there said Dundalk need to go to another level here. Carabag, a very technically good side. What's being talked about as a good result this evening? Are Dundalk expected to get by Carabag here?
Oh, well, no, Carabag are clear favourites. I mean, as Richie mentioned, they're regular group stage participants. I think for Dundalk, to a degree, last week was a big game. They know if they don't get through this tie, they have the Europa League parachute option. So it's not that they're going to have a shot at it, it's a free shot, but maybe there's less pressure around this game. But, I mean, Azerbaijan next week, 30 plus degrees, they have a good home record. I think if Dundalk have ambitions of going through, they probably need to bring a positive result there, to say the least, because this is another level up. I mean, this is a proper side who generally feature up until December time and have played Chelsea, Arsenal, Atletico Madrid and others in recent years. So this is another step up the ladder, to say the least. Okay,
shot in the dark type stuff, as we might expect. Dan, thanks a million. We'll leave it there. The line's not amazing.
Thanks, Joe.
Cheers.
I was kind of enjoying the version of Taka's Miracle playing in the background there.
Kind of threw me. I was thinking, it's that Carabag.
Could you hear?
Absolutely.
Yeah, oh God.
I've got a keen ear for a bad tune, Kieran.
I think my left ear. I think I've got a problem with my left ear, especially.
So Dundalk will have a shot at that. That's going to be tough, obviously, against.
They're going for it, judging by the lineup they put out tonight, though. I mean, they've got McElhaney and Michael Duffy either side of Pat Hoban. Robbie Benson's in midfield, but Jamie McGrath, Chris Shields is the only real anchor in there. They're going to give it a shot.
Well, you
have to go. You
might as well at home.
Yeah.
Because you see what results you get. Why not? I guess. Yeah. There's other games on tonight. Celtic
at the same time, at the same stage of the competition, Celtic facing the Estonian champions of Namakalju at Parkhead. Kickoff also at 7:45. As I mentioned, the Celtic today confirming the signing of Hapoel Beersheva defender Hatem Abd El Hamed. He not involved tonight, though. His signing hasn't come in time. As you mentioned, the Republic of Ireland suffered a heavy defeat in their under-19 European Championship semi-final this afternoon. A Gonçalo Ramos hat-trick saw Portugal win by 4-0 in Yerevan. A Vito Pereira penalty put Portugal 1-0 up, and in the immediate aftermath of that spot kick, Barry Coffey saw a chance cleared off the line and Mark McGuinness hit the bar. Head coach Tom Mohan says the Ireland squad can look back on their exploits over the past week or so with pride.
When the rawness of this defeat, dissipates a wee bit, we'll look back on this tournament, as a real positive, and all the players, staff, myself, everybody, we're all very proud of the players and proud to get to the finals. But when we came to the finals, we had a right go at it. And we bring great memories home with us. And the most important thing, as I say too, is for the players. It's confidence. It stores confidence in them. Going forward, that here can come and compete against these teams, and that's the most important thing, is the players.
France or Spain next for Portugal in the final, deep into the second half in Yerevan. The second of the semi-finals, still scoreless between those two sides.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw much of it, Joe, but the player
that see any of it.
Yeah, but even of the other games, the player that really caught the eye was Joe Hodge. And if you want to feel old, he wasn't born during Saipan. He was born in September 2002. A couple of months later, he's still only 16.
I usually have a go at young people for being young here, but I actually envy him for not being able to remember Saipan.
I'm sure he'd be reminded of. But he'd be one I'd be slightly worried about, because he looks so good and he's already played for England. He's Manchester born. So are we going to have another...
He belted out the anthem today, Kieran.
Another Sagan a couple of years ago, a lad Rice or Grealish, who knows, but he would be one you would really want to keep, though.
Keith says that bowling spell by Murtagh and Adair was borderline unplayable. The commentators can say what they like about our bowlers being mid-pace, but there's more to bowling than all-out pace. You can't beat good line and length bowling. Thanks, Keith. Whereas Sean wants us to settle right down. Will you stop crowing, lads? It's only half-time in Lords. Our innings was very average. Yeah, we made that point, Sean. We are very well aware of how this thing will ultimately finish, but it was a very good start. I mean, you've got to just say, to have a day like that in Lords, a morning like that in Lords is worth touching on. Yeah. And Frank says, hey Joe, Newbridge are nowhere nonsense. He's quoting me there. Home ground is important to every GAA county and club, says Frank. I agree, Frank. Yeah. I think it was nonsense that they weren't allowed to host the game there in the first place. I was certainly on the Kildare side that time. But I just mean it's nonsense in that everybody loses the run of themselves, talks about the whole thing like
The game becomes
it's
secondary.
life or death. There's like people losing their minds. It's all a bit silly when you look back at it 3 or 4 weeks
course,
later.
yeah.
So in that sense, it's nonsense. But geez, Kildare had a hell of a case and rightly won. So there you go. But look, got to be careful what you say here. People jump down your throat pretty quick.
Amen to that.
It's a pity Rankin didn't take the wickets
Go on.
rather than because I had a great Uptown Boyd Rankin.
Brilliant.
But nobody appreciates that.
He wouldn't either.
Completely over my head. Where are we going?
Sail
next?
over your head like a bouncer. Nina's Aisling Keller has secured qualification for Ireland in the laser radial at next year's Olympic Games in Tokyo, which as of today are just 1 year away. The Lochderg Yacht Club member claimed the 7th of the 10 nation places available at this week's World Championships, which are also in Japan. Both Keller and Aoife Hopkins finished inside the qualifying criteria, and it's they who'll decide who represents Ireland at the laser radial between now and April, and they've been explaining to OTB how that place will be decided.
People have asked us if that's tough to deal with, and I'm sure when we do have to deal with it, you know, it will obviously be harder on one of us than the other. But we have known for years that it was going to be this way. You know, we got into it knowing that it's a sport where only one person, you know, if you qualify the country, only one person from that country can go, no matter how good or how many other good sailors there are. So it is really tough that way. Like, I mean, you take the Dutch team, for example, and 3 of those girls are in the top 10 in the world, but only one of them can go to the Olympics. So it is a really, really tough sport in that sense. But I mean, we've known all along, so I guess we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But for now, it's not. I don't think it's an issue. Do you?
Fair play. They spoke to us in the immediate aftermath of that the race over in Japan today. So fair play to do them. And a year to go until Tokyo 2020.
Yeah, it's a year, and it will fly in. And there's all sorts of stories emerging already. Like there's a possibility the O'Donovans could be split.
It looks like they will already.
Oh, they will, yeah. Which should be. It's.
They competed at the latest World Cup event. Was it the latest World Cup event in? Oh God,
There's a couple of weeks. I can't remember where it was, but yeah.
Yeah, they were split. It was one of the O'Donovans and one of the other twins from Skibbereen as well. Were
Yeah, well,
together.
Gary's faster. Gary's a world champion, so he was put in with this other faster guy. And Paul
No,
was put in the boat.
Paul's faster. Gary's
Paul was put in. Yeah, so Paul's world champion. He's the faster of the two. And I think Gary went on his
He was on his own,
yeah.
as he has been for a lot of. Well, Paul has been away in his studies this year. Paul's been competing.
But just it was always seemed like you just remember back to Rio, like you were there, Richie. Like it was just a double act, and like it's just very strange to think it mightn't be there.
And who dictates that?
Basically, the head-to-high performance. Like, who's going to be in the fastest boat? It doesn't matter if there's a filial link or any link. You know,
it's not a partnership as such.
Yeah, well, like when you think of it,
it's
it's the McCarthys are the twins I was thinking of there. Like they're literally twins, and they were racing as well in the same crew, and they're split up as well. So. It's, as I say, like Kieran says, it's just going to be who's fastest and what's going to be the best chance for a medal.
Shane in Wicklow says the under-19s match was excellent. The Gulf wasn't 4-0. Portugal made 3 exceptional saves. Ireland hit the bar on top of it. Ireland played good passing football, and given they played 4 16 and 17-year-olds, they were a credit.
That last point is key. Yeah. Like, it's absolutely key. There's guys playing for Portugal today are already playing first team football for Boavista, amongst others, whereas we have guys who are 16, 17.
Yeah, like I said, that like Hodge is 16, you know, and he's probably Ireland's outstanding player.
We're missing Leo Connor and Jonathan Afolabi, captain and guy who scored.
Troy Parrott, Michael Obafemi. Yeah, they're all eligible. They're not there, so
we could have won it.
Yeah, of course.
It wasn't beyond the realms. Yeah.
Where else we gone?
As I mentioned today, with a year to go until the start of the Olympics, it's been confirmed medals for Tokyo 2020 will be made entirely from recycled gadgets. Around 32 kilos of gold has been extricated from 6.2 million used mobile phones donated over 2 years by people in Japan, and organisers say they're designed to resemble polished stones and are the first sustainable medals in Olympic history.
Is there gold in phones? I never knew that.
Start cracking up mine.
Yeah.
Suddenly seeing why the new iPhones are
loads of old phones.
So do I have a drawer from them. Molly Main has claimed Ireland's second medal of this week's Youth Olympics, which are in Baku. The Temple Oak swimmer claimed bronze in the girls' 200 metre breaststroke. Main's medal follows Razat Adelake's gold in the girls' 100 metres yesterday. While Andy Lee says a conversation needs to be had about boxers' no-quit attitude. It follows the sad passing of Russian boxer Maxim Dadashev after he'd suffered bleeding on the brain after his fight with Subriel Matias in Maryland at the weekend. Dadashev was seen to not respond to coach Buddy McGirt's pleas for him to quit after the 11th round, and Lee says he came close to similar tragedy himself during his own career, and it shows the dangers of the sport.
It brings up several things, like in boxing, like the same weekend on Saturday night, there was a fight in England with David Price and David Allen, and a fight which actually David Allen was the favourite going into. And the story with the fight was that, well, what people thought would happen was that David Price might win the early rounds, but then later on, David Allen will come on and pressure him, and that would be where he'd do his best work later on in the fights. And so early in the fight, David Allen was taking a lot of punches with the hope of coming on later, but it didn't seem like it was going to turn. And then after 10 completed rounds, David Allen said in the corner, look, I've had enough. And Darren Barker, along with David Allen, Darren Barker is his coach, said, well, I'm pulling you out. And he said, yeah, I've had enough. And David Allen got quite a lot of criticism for pulling himself out of a fight. And in boxing, there's this, not unwritten word, there's this mantra that we go out on our shield, that you don't quit, that you'll have to, you'll have to carry me out the ring. And I think that has to be changed now. It has to be, this belief has to be changed.
Mm-hmm. It's very grim, and it's like Andy is bang on there. And it's not just what happens in the ring as well, it's what happens in sparring. Because, like you take somebody like Katie Taylor. Katie Taylor regularly spars male boxers. So she's sparred hundreds of rounds over the years, and the accumulation of blows and that, like, you just wonder, there's always a time a boxer has to get out. Like I remember talking to Carl Frampton a couple of years ago. He said he wanted out at 32. I think he's now 33, he changed his mind, like, because people always think, they need a bit more money or whatever. And but it's such, like, you can become detached from the sport, but then sometimes that really brings it home. This is so dangerous. And I thought it was particularly, like, I listened to Andy earlier, but particularly sad today because have you heard about Barry McGuigan's daughter, Tanika? She passed away from breast cancer today at 33. Yeah. And that family have had to deal with so much over the years. Like, Barry's best man was his brother Dermot, and he was his right-hand man, his corner man, always in his fights. And Dermot took his own life in 1994. Right. Barry's father, Pat, used to sing Danny Boy in the ring before fights. Pat died of cancer at 52. And another thing that really hit Barry hard, and Danica had leukemia when she was 11. She had it for 2 years. She got the all clear 20 years ago, and she catches breast cancer. She was a well-known actress now. Yeah. She's in various RTE shows.
Can't cope.
Can't cope. But she, Barry, like, this is one of the really strange things about boxing, and I've been at them in London. They're called dinner shows. I don't know if you ever heard them about them, but they're basically a black tie dinner. And this one was in Royal Grosvenor House Hotel in London, 1982. And Barry is fighting a guy from Nigeria called Young Ali. And you have a ring in the centre of this, black tie dinner. People have their main course and they watch a fight, and over the dessert, what they watch the main. Like, it's a bit barbaric when you think about that. But young Ali was knocked out by Barry, went into a coma, and he never came out of it. He died a couple of months later. And Barry was actually going to quit boxing over it. He stopped fighting for a few months. And he was one of the first people he mentioned when he won the world title in the ring. He was very emotional after it. But they're just if you look at the amount of deaths in boxing, it's gone way, way down the last 10, 20 years. But every time you hear this, and it's not just the deaths as well, the fighters that are left with brain damage, etc. Like, it's a brutal sport. Like, it's a sport I love, but sometimes it's hard to defend.
I can't recommend Andy's full piece from this morning hard enough. Like, I was watching it back earlier on. It's a really difficult watch, and it's about 40 minutes long, and I don't think Owen gets a word in because Andy's making such valid and necessary points, but he's especially talking about how boxers are treated if they have an injury or if they decide that they can't go on any further to fight, and down the line they're actually penalised for it. Yeah. Like, they're not given the fights that they might necessarily deserve in terms of their talents, because they're viewed as quote-unquote a quitter, or they're not viewed as somebody who you can rely on in the ring because, they might pull out, there might be this, there might be that. Whereas in actuality, they're just being relatively sane and trying to safeguard their own lives. Not even their livelihoods, their actual lives.
Well, like you mentioned, Buddy McGirt, the coach, Dadishev's coach, and I saw the footage of this. He was literally begging him, stop, just quit. Right. He said, we want to pull you. He says, the ref is going to stop it anyway, just quit. Begging. But, that's... I think the decision has to be made for, like, it should be a doctor or somebody, like, or somebody has to intervene. To have a doctor in the corner and they make the decision, say, no, that guy's taken enough. But
Any doctor worth his salt would say that after the first punch is thrown.
yeah.
Like, we're talking about a sport that I wonder will be around in 150 years, 100 years, really?
I don't know. It's one of the oldest sports there is.
Appreciate
so who
that.
knows, you know.
It's entrenched in human nature to
Yeah,
fight as
it
well,
is, yeah.
and there is that aspect.
And
And,
it's
if you
I'll
just finish. If you ban it, then where does it go?
That's it. I was about to say,
Yeah.
you're going to drive it underground. That's the problem, yes.
But in terms of trying to regulate it, like, so what doctor wants to sign up to be the person who says he's had enough?
Yeah.
Like, you're talking about,
He's had enough after one punch.
you're talking about, like, it being around in like 150 years time. Like, it will. Like, we've only seen the last 25 years the nature of fighting as a sport just kind of go tenfold.
Yeah,
in terms
and
of, like, boxing has begat MMA. MMA has begat this freakish bare knuckle thing that Paulie Malignaggi was involved in, a few weeks back.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff is only going to spread. And, like, UFC and Bellator and all these people are just the tip of the iceberg. There's, like, events going on around the country. There's boxing events going on around every country. In
Yeah, and it does a
small
lot
little
of good. It does a huge amount of social good in areas where other sports often make
Fall
no
down, yeah.
inroads. And the other thing is, like,
But
last year,
I
there were far
buy that.
more deaths in rugby. Like, look at all the deaths in rugby last year.
But, like,
you
will
know,
rugby be around in 200 years' time? You know? Like,
Will any of us?
I just think, sports evolve and change, and, like, NFL, I'd wonder as well, increasingly, is that going to be around? And I know what you're saying about the great effect that boxing has socially in areas where other sports don't make inroads. Well, the same discipline and self-confidence and various things that boxing can give you, any sport can give you. So really just support those sports in those areas, and eventually they'll catch on as well. It's not like areas of social deprivation are immune to, like in other sports.
Yeah,
It's not like it's only boxing. So
It's
I don't know,
something that Andy touched on as well earlier on, like, when we talk about Buddy McGirt asking him to stop and saying that he stopped, like, the damage that was done to Dadashev that ultimately claimed his life was done by that stage. So it's not as if Dadashev saying yes or no to him would have changed or would have made he still be here.
It's the scary thing, you don't know when the damage has
No,
been
we
done.
don't. Like, a lot of people think that most of the damage that was done to Ali was in the Thriller in Manila, Fraser in 1975, which was, 6-7 years before he actually retired. So he fought on a lot of fights after that. And a lot of people say that's the greatest fight of all time. But you think, you're looking back at it now and think, maybe it just finished the guy, you know. So.
Danger and sport are inextricably twinned, says Connor. Even your guest later on, John Watson, might admit that since the Dangers left Formula One, so too has some of the excitement. When I was watching Formula One in the 90s, what kept you watching was the constant possibility of incident, i.e. a crash. So, no, it's true. It's a weird thing we're trying to balance. I guess there is informed adult consent, but then do you want kids boxing?
Yeah, but you see that in all sorts of sports. You see that with GA now. People complain there's not enough contact. Like, they want people hopping off each other. Like, people,
That video that was doing the rounds from the 70s earlier on this year, earlier on in the week, there was a video of Paddy O'Shea and
Denny Allen. Even Irvin Welsh retweeted it.
Michael Boseman.
I do think ultimately you're right though, Kieran. Like, it's been around for so long, it's the oldest sport.
Yeah.
Human beings will always have a certain desire to fight.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I think it's there.
So Andy was on OTBM this morning. People can watch that on YouTube.
Yeah, watch it back on YouTube.
Offtheball.com.
On offtheball.com, and every morning, indeed, from all of our social channels. Everton defender Yerry Mean has been charged with misconduct in relation to a breach of the Football Association's betting regulations. It's understood to relate to a betting advert which Mina appeared in earlier this year in his home country of Colombia. He has until Friday to respond. Everton, of course, sponsored by a betting company as well. Idrissa Gueye, though, appears bound to sign for Paris Saint-Germain. The League One champions have agreed a €33 million fee with Everton for the services of the Ivorian midfielder. Reports of racism and discrimination in football rose by a third last season. Figures from Kick It Out in the UK show they were up by 32% at both professional and grassroots level. Faith-based issues, including Islamophobia and anti-Semitism, increased by 75% from 36 reports to 63, and discrimination related to sexual orientation increased by 12%.
Meanwhile, French hopes of a French Tour de France
Yeah,
winners
they're
still
getting
alive?
closer. Julian Alaphilippe retains the leader's yellow jersey and 1 minute 35 second lead over Geraint Thomas after today's 17th stage of the Tour de France as they head towards the Alps. Matteo Trentin won today's stage into Gap. Alaphilippe, along with his closest rivals, finished safely within the peloton, as did Ireland's Dan Martin, who is 14th on general classification. Nico Roche had a good day today, though. He rose and gained some time on the leaders, but is still some ways back. I think he's just inside the top 30 in 27th position.
Rich, thanks very much. This week we're going to be in Dr. Croke's in Killarney. That's Wednesday, 31st of July. Nathan Down with Kieran Donaghy, Darren O'Sullivan, Pat O'Shea, Sean Boylan and Kerry, ladies legend as well, Margaret Lawler. It's an exclusive offer event. The only way to enjoy this to be there. Tickets are free, but you must register and either print your tickets or have them on your phone, all with thanks to SuperValue. If you want to register, you're going to offtheball.com/events is the place to go. So get involved. That's next Wednesday down in Killarney. Kieran Cunningham, thanks very much.
No problem, thanks.
We'll be talking to John Watson after 8 o'clock. Graham Hunter as well on the way about Zidane and Bale. And up next, we'll talk about a fairly astonishing morning for the Irish cricketers.
Off the Ball on News Talk.
Brought to you by Avantcard, powered by MasterCard. Get cash back on your everyday spend with the Avantcard Reward Plus credit card. Avantcard DAC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
And we might meet Brenda herself at the end.
At Volkswagen, to us experiencing the real thing matters. With our master service technicians, you're guaranteed real expertise and 100% genuine parts. And only we can sign our work with the official Volkswagen stamp of approval. Make sure it stays a Volkswagen. Book your classic service online now from €169 at volkswagenservice.ie. Terms and conditions apply.
Voted Best Irish Festival of 2018. Galway International Arts Festival brings you the best theatre from Ireland and all around the world. World premieres from Irish National Opera, Druid and Moonfish. New productions from The Abbey, Rough Magic, Corcadorca and Decadent. Plus great international drama and spectacular physical theatre. Galway International Arts Festival. 14 extraordinary days. Now on. Tickets on sale at giaf.ie. Supported by the Arts Council, Fáilte Ireland, Heineken and NUI Galway.
Tired of having to plan and work around your laundry? Not anymore. Introducing the new Whirlpool Fresh Care range of washing machines and tumble dryers. Through the gentle steaming and tumbling of your clothes, Fresh Care appliances will work for up to 6 hours after your cycle has finished, ensuring optimal care for your clothes and perfect freshness every time. Our Fresh Care washing machines have been awarded with an allergy seal of approval and a 10-year lifetime parts warranty. For more information, visit whirlpool.ie or your local Whirlpool retailer.
Relax this evening and visit itsforwomen.ie. Great value car insurance for those on the go. Get the cover you need day or night at itsforwomen.ie. It's time to own it.
Off the Ball. This is News Talk.
What a day. Fabulous bowling. England all over the place.
Oh, beautifully bowled, yes again. What a spell this has been. First test match at Lord's for Ireland, first test match at Lord's for Tim Murtagh, and he will now go on the honours board as a man who has taken 5 wickets in a test match at Lord's.
Everything felt really good today. All came out nicely and just did a little bit off the wicket.
Was it just a case of keeping it simple? One thing you did very well was pitch the ball up and get the batsman coming forward.
Yeah, I mean, I should know how to bowl on this ground. You know, I've been here long enough to know how to bowl here. Yeah, I think that was key. I think just get it up there, try and let the pitch do a bit of work, a little bit of nip both ways and a bit of swing. So, yeah, that was the plan.
Yeah, Tim Murtagh there, who's had a remarkable morning at Lord's. We're joined by Nick Royal, Times Ireland cricket correspondent. Nick, thanks for joining us.
Hey, it's been thanks for having me. It's been an unbelievable day at Lord's today. One of the best days of cricket I've ever seen.
I would think so. So for people who've been busy at work all day and just vaguely following this thing, they would have seen in the morning, 7 minutes, I think, to be exact, before lunch, the hosts were bowled out for 85 at Lord's against plucky old Ireland. This was not meant to happen.
No, it really wasn't. People were talking about this being a 4-day test match, and I think the implication was that Ireland wouldn't be good enough to last for 4 days. Well, it's turned out that England probably aren't good enough to last for 4 days. just figures around of Irish cricket that I've seen in the press box and around the ground today, and just, the looks on their face, the people who have been associated with Irish cricket for 20, 30 years, and it's a culmination of a long, long path, and to have that morning, well, it's just been a magnificent day for Irish cricket.
So what shape did the morning take then? When did Tim Murtagh step into the fray?
Well, Tim opened the bowling. Now, Tim Murtagh plays his county cricket for Middlesex at this very stadium behind me, Lords, and he is one of the best exponents of swinging the ball. This is his home pitch. So there was a feeling that if Ireland were going to do anything, Tim Murtagh had to be the man to step up, but he really had stepped up. He doesn't bowl 90 miles an hour. He's not someone like Jofra Archer of England or Mitchell Starc of Australia. He bowls about 75 miles an hour, but he just bowls it in the same place every ball. And it's so difficult to deal with. And he just swings the ball slightly, and he was just unplayable. He took four wickets for one run in 11 balls at one stage, and just the look of shock from the England fans was something to behold.
So he goes up on the honours board now. 5 wickets for his 13 runs. This puts him up on an honours board, and I'm reading as well, it's the earliest, most economical 5-wicket haul by a bowler in a test at Lords ever, full stop.
I mean, there's all kinds of records. I think he got onto the honours board within about 44, 50 odd balls. Yes, you're right about that. All kinds of records have fallen today. More wickets have fallen today in a Lord's Test than any since 1896. He does go up on the honours board. The irony is that he was born in London, and in 2008 he was very close to getting an England call-up, but they looked at him and just thought, this guy isn't fast enough to play for England. So there's a bit of vindication and a bit of revenge perhaps for Tim Murtagh today.
For England, 85 was their 9th lowest innings in a home test. Michael Vaughan was on the BBC. He said, "This is an embarrassment. No other word can describe what we've seen. My wife is Irish. She's been trying to ring me for half an hour. I'm not answering, and it's staying that way." He did make the point, though, that there was an issue with England batting. There is a fragility there. Was there a sense that Ireland could take advantage of that going into it? Like, how poor can England be when it comes to batting?
Well, I mean, they have done this maybe 3 times in the last 4 years, where they have been skittled out by sides that you wouldn't expect them to be. There is a fragility because since Alistair Cook has retired, they don't have a set opening partnership. They're not really convinced at number 3 either. So that there is a fragility. But when you say of teams taking advantage of England's back fragility, you're looking perhaps maybe teams like Australia, not Ireland.
Nick, was there any sense of it being important from an Irish point of view to put a best foot forward as they begin to make their way in Test cricket? Like, do they almost need to show that they belong at this level, or is that conversation long over at this stage anyway?
No, I think they do have to show that. I think they're actually under pressure every game they play against a larger cricket nation, because people are very easy to write off Ireland and Afghanistan and teams below as just not being ready and not being good enough to play the top teams. And we saw that in the World Cup, where they reduced the number of teams from 2011 and 2015 from 14 teams to 10, and the implication was that teams outside the elites weren't good enough for a World Cup. So Ireland players are under huge pressure every time they play to prove themselves, and they really have done today. There's so many people who've stepped up. It's not just Tim Murtagh. We could maybe talk about the batting later. Andrew Balbirnie with a magnificent 50, and he just looks so comfortable against the fast bowlers of England. It was an incredible day.
Your point about Murtagh and this being his home ground, I appreciate, but was this like the greatest performance of Tim Murtagh's life? I presume this has to be, like literally the peak of his career. He's not doing this on a routine basis.
Well, I mean, he is so very difficult to play against, but he's doing it in county cricket week in, week out, and has done for years.
Right.
But this is another level. This is in front of 30,000 people rather than just a handful of people in a county game. It's against the land of his birth. It's against the team that basically told him he didn't bowl fast enough to play for them. So yeah, it's such a great day. I remember actually. Behind me is the Lord's Pavilion. I remember in 2017, and this was just before Ireland had got Test and full member status, And there was a suggestion that maybe England would offer a test match to Ireland.
Yeah.
And I just asked him, you're going to be 38 or 39 when that happens. Do you think you'll do it? You'll stick around? And he said, yeah, I'll stick around because it would mean everything to me. And, he's done it today. And what a performance.
Because the Test match special commentator, Michael McNamee, he said this is surely up there with Ireland's finest moments in cricket. They're embarrassing the hosts at Lord's. Where does this rank for Irish cricket?
Well, I mean, it's only the first day of a 4-day Test match, so it is a great day. But that's the thing about Test cricket. It's not a one-day game. It's not a 2020 game, which are games where you can kind of sometimes get a bit lucky, like Ireland did in 2011 in Bangalore when Kevin O'Brien everything he seemed to hit went into the stands. You can sometimes in the limited overs format, you can do it. A player can do it all on their own. And get lucky, but you can't do it in Test cricket. You've got to keep it up for 1, 2, 3, 4 days. Yeah. So it's going to be very difficult. I honestly don't expect Ireland to win the Test match, but they could embarrass England further tomorrow morning.
Yeah. So Ireland finished off the innings with 207. They led by 122 runs at the end of that first innings. Was that a disappointing? I know you're talking about a very good 50 in there, but was 207 a disappointing return, or were they relatively happy with that, or how did the afternoon go from an Irish point of view?
I mean, you're always in a danger when you start a day and you do very well, and then things kind of peter out a bit later in the day. That there's a natural sense of you focus on the final bit of the day and the disappointments. But I don't think they'll be doing that. I think realistically, if you'd asked me before the Test match what would be a good score for Ireland to get against this England attack, I'd have said about 230, and I would have expected England to score about 400. So, they've got close to something like 230. They've got 207, but obviously England are quite far away from 400 runs.
Yes, absolutely. Nick, stay with us a moment if you can. We're joined as well by Niall O'Brien, a former Irish cricketer, played in Ireland's first ever Test match against Pakistan, brother of Kevin. You're there, Niall?
I am indeed, gentlemen. Good evening.
Good evening. So that wasn't a bad morning. We were just saying, what were your thoughts as all this was happening?
Fantastic. Absolutely sensational. One of the best days in Irish cricket history. Unbelievable. Most of the toss. Bowling first, Tim Murtagh was out of this world. Mark Adair was fantastic, and the boys were good in the field. Gary Wilson was good behind the stumps, a couple of superb reviews, and I thought they batted well.
I guess
got a few more runs with the bat, but fell away a little bit towards the end.
Yeah, I guess a question you're well placed to answer. How much of a thing is it within the Irish camp to really make their mark at Test level?
Well, it's the main spectacle of the game. Forget your T20s, even forget your 50-over cricket. This is what you're judged on, your Test match career. And if Ireland in the third game can pull off a win against England, in my opinion, it'll be the biggest sporting moment in Irish history, not just cricket, in Irish sporting history, if they can do the impossible and win here at Lord's. And that's on the cards at the moment. A lot of hard work still to be done, of course. But those guys are sitting in the balcony this evening, having a beer and just enjoying the moment. And they should do that. They should enjoy what was a fantastic day in front of a great crowd. Wonderful Irish support. But there's 2 more days hard work to go. And I say 2 more days because I can't see this game going into day 4.
Niall, to what extent is it a possibility? Because everybody really is saying ultimately England will prevail here.
Well, I disagree. I think England will bat better. Of course it will. Ireland have a good lead. They've got a tail ender in the crease now, which I don't believe in. I don't believe that opening batsmen should unite watchmen. They've got Jack Leach instead of Jason Roy. There's an easy wicket without disregarding Jack Leach as a batsman. There's an early wicket for Ireland. So Ireland already have a wicket down, pretty much. Jack Leach will be gone early tomorrow morning, I would think. 9 more to go. Why not? England, even if they bat brilliantly and get 300, Ireland can chase 170, 180 on the last innings. So a couple of the Ireland batsmen look good. McCullum was good at the top of the order, I thought, played nicely. Balbirnie and Sterling, 2 of Ireland's best players. Balbirnie, in my opinion, Ireland's best batsman in the current side, and Kevin O'Brien looked very accomplished. So there's no reason why Ireland won't be confident. Even if England play really well second time round and get a good score, Ireland can chase it on the 4th innings.
There you go, Nick Royal. What are you bringing me down for? Ireland to win, why not?
Well, yeah, I mean, just hearing Nobby talk, I was just reminded of the final over of the game. And time was running out, and England were desperate not to face more than 1 over. And there was a hilarious scene where the one member of the ground staff had the heavy roller, and he was driving it so slowly off the pitch in a concerted attempt to basically time waste for England, and it was noticed by the Irish fans, who heckled him all the way along, and he had a big smile on his face as he crossed the boundary. And of course, his job was done, because England only faced one over at the end of the game. I heard what Nobby said, and Nobby's a great cheerleader for Irish cricket. He's right. Ireland could win this if they bowl as well as they did today, and skittle out England. But I think if England do get to 300, I think it's going to be very difficult to chase 170 on this pitch for Ireland. But Ireland could win it, but I expect England to prevail.
Niall, would tactics change or anything change now that Ireland have had this unexpectedly really good first day, or is it stick to the plan territory?
Well, the only tactics that might change would be from England's dressing room, because Ireland do not have to do anything different. Same again, Tim Murtagh, 75 mile an hour, testing the techniques in England top order. England top three are under real pressure. Jason Rory, first game as an opening batsman. Burns looks all at sea as a test cricketer. For me, he's not a test match cricketer. His technique's totally wrong. There's too much going wrong in his technique, and the Aussie bowlers will be licking their lips. And you got Joe Denley still finding his way. So Ireland have a real opportunity to put England under pressure. Ireland just do the same thing. England might need to do something different. They can't sit on Tim Murtagh, because Tim Murtagh does not bowl bad balls. So England may need to do something different. From Ireland, Graham Ford, Rob Castle, the bowling coach, same again, boys.
Yeah, and Niall, on the face of it, 90 miles an hour sounds a lot tougher than 75 miles an hour. What is Tim Murtagh doing that is throwing off these very accomplished batsmen?
Well, he's giving a few of these England boys a restless night, Tim Murtagh, because they won't want to face him tomorrow. 3 players for England on a pair as well. Bairstow's on a pair. He's had a terrible day behind the stumps as well. It's a tough day at the office, Johnny Bairstow. Got a duck, dropped the catch, was untidy. No one likes to get a pair, and Tim Murtagh is not the bowler you want when you're on a pair, because he will ask the questions. He will test your forward defence and try and take out the middle of your front pad. So it's difficult. 75 mile an hour. If it was a T20 game, well, why would you just hit him for 6? Test match cricket, you can't do that. Or can you? Will England come out swinging tomorrow? It should be fascinating.
Yeah. And what is it about Murtagh's delivery that is so deceptive? Is it the spin? Is it where he's bouncing at the lines? Like, can you give the uninitiated like me a good sense of why he's so effective?
Well, he's very accurate. He is, on a sixpence, ball after ball. He just moves it enough. He's not a big swinger of the ball. He just gets a little bit of seam movement either way.
Right.
A couple of edges today. Little feathers through to the keeper, simple catches. Little feather through to Paul Sterling, and then a couple just nip the other way up the hill for LB. So as a batsman, you're not quite sure which way the ball is going to move. That's why he's got 805 first class.
Well, listen, Niall, we appreciate you calling in. Thanks so much. We'll let you go. Enjoy tomorrow.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Bye-bye.
Cheers. And Nick, Royal Times Ireland cricket correspondent, still with us. I presume, by the way, decent Irish contingent there, making some noise today.
There are. I mean, we've seen a lot of Irish faces in the crowd and a lot of Irish jerseys. We've seen a couple of Fine Gael politicians. This is the Fine Gael party at play. Shane Ross is here, obviously, and Simon Coveney's here with his 100-year-old grandmother, who's enjoyed the day. There's a lot of Irish here who've flown over, and there's a big London Irish contingent as well. There's also Larry Leprechaun, who is an Ireland fan who dresses in a full leprechaun outfit. And I tell you, it's 33 degrees out there, and he didn't take it off all day. So fair play to him. And the rumours that Tim Murtagh and Shane Ross were paraded around shoulder high at the end of the day, are they to be confirmed or no? That's just Shane Ross. We've seen him so often with Katie Taylor, with Shane Lowry. He just can't stay away, can he? No, he sure can't. So I guess, well, look, what an amazing first day, and a historic one, really. And it's really good that they didn't go over there and have a terrible start to proceedings, because it would be a bit of a downer. Generally, the protocol now, the traditions, the players will just chill out at their hotel and take it easy, and it's go again, or are they accessible to the media on a night like tonight, or how does it all work? Yeah, I mean, they'll come and do a press conference, and then they'll chat to some of the Irish journalists who've been, following them from the days of associate cricket and the days of, so they're almost quite loyal to the journalists who followed them around. I don't really know how they're going to handle tonight. I'm not sure how the Ireland backroom staff are, because I don't think they'd ever have dreamed they were going to be in this position. You know, every team, every sports team have plans that they stick to, but, you know, when the plans change, the plans have changed completely. So I don't really know how they're going to approach it. What I do know is that the physio of Ireland is very worried about the heat tomorrow. It's going to hit 37 degrees, and you know, there's some pale Irish skins there. Poor Kevin O'Brien's going to suffer under that heat. So there's going to be lots of ice baths and lots of recovery programs for tonight in order to get them right for tomorrow.
Geez, 37. Even just keeping your concentration in that kind of heat is something else.
It is. I mean, you know, you do worry because Lords is quite a boozy place. It's one of the few sports grounds in the country where you're actually allowed to bring in your own alcohol. You're allowed to bring in a bottle of wine. So, you know, and you can buy hampers of champagne and wines here as well. So there's a lot of good drinking that goes on. And, you know, in the afternoon, I expect it to get quite messy, actually, tomorrow afternoon.
And I presume it is more wine and champagne as opposed to Dutch Gold.
It's not a 4 cans of Dutch Gold at the pub in Trinity. No, it's not that kind of place.
Okay, listen, Nick Royal, watching for Times Ireland, covering the cricket there. Enjoy the next couple of days. Thanks for filling us in on a pretty interesting first day. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks,
Cheers.
Off the Ball on News Talk. The Hard Shoulder.
Every week on The Hard Shoulder, Sinead Ryan answers your consumer queries live on air. But for the next 2 weeks, we're stepping things up a little, Sinead.
That's right. Each day, I'll be focusing on a specific area and answering all your consumer queries with the help of our experts. From insurance to investments, mortgages to motoring, consumer rights to home renovations.
So, email your question to thehardShoulder@newstalk.com.
The Hard Shoulder with Ivan Yates.
With Nissan.
Weekdays from 4 on News Talk.
Bruce Betting, one of Ireland's leading bookmakers. With best odds guaranteed on UK and Irish horse racing, Bruce Betting has you covered. And with the Bruce Betting app, we're always giving you more. T's and C's apply. Bruce Betting, in-store, online, and now on your phone. Over 18s, please gamble responsibly. See dunlewy.net.
Logically, you know Cube kitchens are expertly designed and fitted. Practically, you know they've got all the clever storage ideas you could wish for. Reassuringly, you know Cube have over 50 years experience, but that's not why you want one. Cube kitchens just look so overwhelmingly, irresistibly amazing. See our full kitchen wardrobe and furniture range, including Calagaris in Dublin and Cork, or online at cubekitchens.ie, or call to arrange a free consultation. Be kitchen proud with Cube.
Better luck next time, Brian. Funny old game, golf. Now, you got off to a cracking start, by the way.
Here's the question. Did Brian really lose? You see, last week he switched his car insurance to AIG Golfer and got a really great deal.
Pity, because you're putting.
AIG sponsor the GUI and ILGU and have great prices and discounts for golfers.
The hazard on the 9th is usually my
So, maybe some extra bunker lessons from the pro with those savings, Brian. Thanks, AIG.
For a quote, visit aig.ie/golf. Terms and conditions apply. AIG Europe SA is authorised and supervised in Luxembourg by the Minister of Finance and the Commission of Insurance and is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland for conduct of business rules.
Thomas Edison. He's months away from lighting up the world.
The man who controls electricity.
Westinghouse is placing a bid.
Edison Electric, it has to be. Can change the whole world. Automation, transportation, communication, the future. Benedict Cumberbatch.
Vultures in every venture. Gotta keep them away.
Michael Shannon.
I have the better system.
Nicholas Holt.
Nikola Tesla. I fix problems for idiots. There's never going to be anything named Tesla again.
And Tom Holland.
His current kills people.
Only because you said it would.
The Current War in cinemas Friday. Certificate TBC.
Let's face it, the Irish summer has serious commitment issues. It's always late, disappears for weeks at a time, and consistently breaks its promises. But not us. At Electric Ireland, we're committed to giving you an 8.5% saving on your gas and electricity year after year after year after year. Visit electricireland.ie/join for the kind of commitment you deserve.
Estimated annual bill €1,736. Average consumption, urban 24-hour, discounted unit rate, standing charge, PSO levy and carbon tax. Residential, dual fuel, direct debit and online billing. Terms and conditions apply. See electricireland.ie/EAB. Rates at 1st of April 2019, subject to change.
Off the Ball. This is News Talk.
Now then, welcome back. So Dundalk, 10 minutes into their game against Qarabag this evening, they're 1-0 down, unfortunately. A Patrick Hoban own goal, so not the start Dundalk were looking for as they aim to qualify for the third round of the Champions League. We'll keep you updated across the evening. 15 years ago, Shelbourne did make it to the third round very famously, ended up against Deportivo La Coruña. I think a lot of people listening remember that game very well. We're at that game, and to look back on it, we have put together a documentary with Stewie Byrne and Owen Heary, and it's available to watch now on YouTube and our various social channels and at offtheball.com as well. Here's a taster. Stewie Byrne here remembering how he felt when Deportivo came out of the draw.
It was certainly daunting because this wasn't just any European team. This was the team that effectively bet AC Milan 4-1, I think it might have been, in the quarter-final, 8 or 9 months prior. So it wasn't just any team we were playing against. It was one of the best teams in Europe at that particular time, and so I don't know whether we thought about it too much. I don't think we had time to. I don't think we could. I think you're sort of when you go into a game like that, a lot of things happened in the background, like media suddenly just goes from there to there. You're getting followed around by Sky Sports News. Your training sessions are all of a sudden there's actually supporters coming out to watch you train, and there's all that sort of thing going on. We were training in Lansdowne Road in the 2 or 3 days leading up to it, so there's a lot for you to take in. So because of that, there isn't that much time to kind of really focus or worry, I suppose would be the best way. Worry too much about who you're playing. You really have to kind of knuckle down quite quickly and put all your energy into the tactics and the game plan and what it is you have to do to actually beat this team, because they were one of the best teams in Europe at that time.
They sure were. So if you fancy a trip down memory lane, League of Ireland fans, then YouTube is where the documentary is, or equally offtheball.com is where you'll find it. Now, busy next hour to come. Graham Hunter will talk to us about the Gareth Bale situation at Real Madrid, and we'll be joined in a few moments' time by former Formula One star of the 1970s and 80s, John Watson, Belfast born and bred, is going to join us next.
There's one family car that really stands out. Since 2010, it's been the world's best-selling electric vehicle, and it's not like the others. The Nissan Leaf has all the space and tech a family needs, no compromises. And you'll save a bundle on running costs. Visit your local Nissan dealer to take a test drive today. Nissan Leaf, the family car that's 100% electric. Nissan, innovation that excites.
This Irish success story is brought to you by Guaranteed Irish.
Did you know that the 60 hotels within Original Irish Hotels are guaranteed Irish? From country manors and historic castles to chic urban boutiques, Original Irish Hotels offer true local character and a unique warm welcome. At originalarishhotels.com, you're not just another room number. The Guaranteed Irish symbol helps you choose and support altogether better choices. So look out for it. GuaranteedIrish.ie. Altogether better.
Share, sip and savour. The Dundrum Summerfest is here, Monday to Sunday in Town Square all summer long, with fantastic food, frankfurters, vegan burgers, cheese toasties, charcoal ice cream, and entertainment for all. See you in real life at Summerfest at Dundrum Town Centre.
How could a KBC personal loan make a difference to you? Make a difference to your... Make a difference to your... Make a difference to your... Or make a difference to your... Apply for a personal loan with KBC to find out how we can make a difference to you and your pocket. KBC, the bank of you. Lending criteria, underwriting, terms and conditions apply. KBC Bank Ireland plc is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Across Ireland on 106 to 108 FM and at newstalk.com. This is Newstalk.
Good evening, I'm Adrian Harman. Boris Johnson's appointing his cabinet just hours after becoming British Prime Minister, following a meeting with the Queen. His old rival for the job, former Foreign Secretary Jeremy Hunt, says he was offered a different role but wouldn't be taking it. In the last while, Dominic Raab's been confirmed as the new Foreign Secretary, Sajid Javid as Chancellor and Priti Patel as Home Secretary. Earlier, Mr Johnson used his first speech as British Prime Minister to insist that Brexit will be delivered. He says he's sure he can get a new, better Brexit deal, which doesn't involve checks at the Irish border.
Because we refuse, under any circumstances, to have such checks, and yet without that anti-democratic backstop. And it is, of course, vital, at the same time, that we prepare for the remote possibility that Brussels refuses any further to negotiate.
The former US Special Counsel has refused to comment on the prospect of impeachment proceedings against Donald Trump. Robert Mueller has appeared before two committees in Washington today to answer questions about his investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election. However, he told lawmakers he won't expand on the findings of his final report. Republican Mike Johnson asked Mr. Mueller about the issue of impeachment.
Mr. Mueller, one last important question. Your report does not recommend impeachment, does it?
I'm not going to talk about recommendations.
It does not conclude that impeachment would be appropriate here,
I'm not going to talk about that.
The Psychiatric Nurses Association suspended this evening's planned industrial action by 6,000 of its members. Nurses were due to begin an overtime ban as part of their row with the HSE over the recruitment and retention of mental health staff. This evening, the PNA says discussions with the Workplace Relations Commission has seen some of the issues resolved, while others will be referred to the Labour Court, which it's agreed to attend. The union says more than 200 nursing posts have been granted to help tackle the reliance on overtime and agency staff in mental health services. And Facebook's been fined €5 billion in the United States for privacy violations. The Federal Trade Commission started an investigation into the social media giant after the Cambridge Analytica scandal, in which the data of tens of millions of users was improperly obtained. The fine is the largest ever imposed on any company for violating users' privacy and is just under a quarter of Facebook's profits for 2018. That's it for now. More in an hour.
News Talk Weather.
Staying dry for the most part, with some rain in the west. Continuing dry tonight with showers in western and southern areas. Lowest temperatures around 15 to 17 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
Now then, you're very welcome, Max. So later on we'll be joined by Graham Hunter, who will explain to us just what is going on with Gareth Bale and Zinedine Zidane. It seems China is a possibility for Gareth Bale, which would be a savage waste of his talent at just 30 years of age. But Zidane wants him out, and there aren't many takers. So we'll talk to Graham in a little while. Our next guest, John Watson, spent 10 years on the Formula One circuit. He was there from 1973 to 1983. He won 5 Grand Prix in his time. He could have won the 1982 World Championship. He finished in a tie for second that year, and a year before that, 1981, one of his great days, British Grand Prix winner.
And there is René Arnoux, the man who for so long looked as though he had got the race in his pocket, but he hadn't. The turbo let him down, and John Watson is now on lap 68 out of 68. This is the victory lap. They know it. He knows it, we know it. He's only got half a lap to go, less than half a lap to go, because it is from Abbey Curve up to Woodcote, under the bridge, into the chicane. He's won because he can coast home now, into the chicane. The crowd roars, and the British Grand Prix has been won by a British car with a British driver. His name, John Watson, and there's the victory salute.
John Watson, you're very welcome.
Thank you very much, Joe.
I presume that was a good day?
38 years ago. It was a beautiful day. It was a Saturday. It was not quite as hot as it is right now, but it was certainly a very warm day. Special day for many people, not least of all, I think, for the fans that turned up. They saw a win, which they maybe hadn't anticipated, but I think because of that, it was all the more pleasurable. And I've been very fortunate over, 38 years since, to have met a great deal of people who were present that day. Many of them were probably children, because they're probably in their middle 40s, early 50s now. So I think that was the biggest memory that I hold. But for a technological point of view, it was the first Grand Prix that was won by a full carbon fibre chassis Formula One car, which of course was a pathfinder to what now is de rigueur in motorsport across the board.
Oh, is that right? I didn't realise that. And did the technological changes down the years change the demands on a driver?
I think in my generation, I came in when the cars were pretty uncomplicated in terms they were very much very manual, in the sense that a clutch pedal, a normal connection between the brake and the driver, or the throttle pedal and the engine. So they were straightforward cars. It was probably more towards the end of the end of the 70s, when first of all turbocharging, which is now something we all probably have. Most people would have some form of turbocharging in the road car that they might drive. That was new technology. At the same time, ground effects, which I think is a great way of producing downforce, but having a clean and uncomplicated aero package on a race car. And then, of course, it all evolved beyond that, and it's now gotten into an era where the complexities are, I think, blurring the sport.
Well, we might touch on that towards the end. In all this time we've talked to you over the last couple of years, I don't know actually where you live. I think outside Oxford, I might have read?
Just outside Oxford, yes. I've been here for almost 3 decades now.
Okay. And Belfast, born and bred?
Born in Belfast, but grew up outside Belfast in a lovely area on the shores of Belfast Lough known as Craig of Ad. And beside me was a wonderful golf course, having just watched a fantastic match up at Royal Portrush. Shane Lowry did amazing, unbelievable. So proud of what he did, and so proud of how golf was portrayed in Ireland as an island. Royal Portrush turned it on, just magnificently.
Yeah, it really was an amazing few days. Where for you, like on the spectrum of possibility, was a Formula One career? Because 1950s, just outside Belfast, I know your father was in the motor trade to some degree, but that's still a hell of a leap for an 8, 9, 10-year-old to be thinking, I might want to get into motorsport.
I think it was maybe most children, even today, they have dreams. They see something. Motorsport wasn't very widely covered on broadcasting in those days. Principally, only one channel in the 50s, you only had BBC. But some races were televised, certainly Formula One races, Le Mans being another race. And of course, maybe the race that was most influential for me was held at a circuit just outside Belfast called Dundalk, which is still in use for the Ulster Grand Prix for motorcycles. Then it was a major part of world sports car racing. Went there in 1955 with my family, was in the pits and the paddock, saw the stars of the day, saw all the great teams of the day, and it was just a magical moment, and it made me, it really reinforced a 9-year-old's dream of one day being a driver who could compete at that level. Of course, there was no real route for me to follow, albeit there had been a number of drivers. Desmond Titterington was notable, and he raced there in 1955. And there were a number of other drivers, Bobby Baird and some of the drivers, Joe Kelly from outside Dublin, who raced at a high level, but they weren't what I would describe as professional drivers, in the sense that when I moved into motorsport, and particularly into Formula 2 and then Formula 1, there was a clear professional path that you could follow.
I saw you talking about how you would race at places like Dunboyne and the Phoenix Park, Irish road racing. What were you good at? What set you apart? What kind of driver were you, John?
I was somebody who took it quite seriously in a period when racing in Ireland primarily was a weekend occupation, a sort of relaxation possibly. And there were a number of very good drivers in that era, and many of them, had they applied themselves or if they'd taken the chance and focused on maybe attempting to create a professional career, could have done very well. But most of the drivers were people who had a family business or involved in business of some sort, and they focused on just simply racing at weekends, enjoying it, and that was about as far as they wished to take it.
You know, if we talk about different sports, football or international sports, different countries or different areas produce different styles of driving. Was there a particular style of driving on this island?
There were two forms of motor racing. One was on permanent circuits, which, for example, Kirkeston is probably the best known circuit. And then on the other hand, Dunboyne, which was a once-a-year race, and Phoenix Park, again, a once-a-year race. And they were pure road circuits. And, I mean, because of their nature, I really enjoyed them. They were a major challenge. And I think it made the driver focus very much more on, first of all, on the precision that was required to race on those kind of racetracks. But therefore, the fulfillment and satisfaction that you would have received from doing a good job was probably that much greater than racing on the wide open spaces of an ex-airfield or military airfield.
Because I did see you described elsewhere as a very precise driver, so maybe that's the reasoning.
Well, I enjoyed certainly my racing on those road circuits. Dunboyne was a pure road circuit. Phoenix Park is using the main drag through the park, and then the loop roads. In fact, the first time I raced in Phoenix Park, we were using part of the racetrack that went around the back of the Dublin Zoo.
Right. And would you get good crowds at them back in the day?
At Dunboyne, you get a crowd, yes. I mean, all the locals, because it was free, they would rock up. And Phoenix Park, likewise, I think it was a free venue. It's a public park, a municipal park. So I think people would come to it and they enjoyed it. And one of the attractions of those two particular races was that they were at a higher level than the average, what might be described as club race meeting in Ireland, because they attracted international entries.
Right.
So you were seeing, for example, in the days of Formula Junior, a man called Ken Tyrrell ran a Formula Junior team, and he raced his cars at Dunboyne. I'm not sure if they raced at Phoenix Park or not. Other race drivers, I remember one man in particular, South African, Bob Ulthoff, driving an MGA twin cam, sitting in a grandstand watching him come into the village in Dunboyne. Unbelievable. And then a year or two later, in an Austin Healey 3000, even more unbelievable. And the only thing that was even better than that was A.K. Poole, the pooler from Dublin, Booth Poole, the son of Bill Poole, in his hybrid Austin Healey Sprite. He drove the wheels off that little car, the quickest Austin Healey Sprite I've ever seen in the world.
And this is what, 1960s, 1970s?
This is
territory?
the early 60s, yeah. 63, 64.
Okay, amazing.
The Formula Junior was actually that. It was 61, 62.
And what about money and all this when you're trying to get started? Do you have to come from a wealthy family? Do you kind of cobble it together yourself? Are you relying on the local butcher to sponsor you? How does all this work?
Probably every one of those things. I mean, in my case, it was a family affair. And my father, as you mentioned, was in the motor business in Belfast. And then he raced in the 50s primarily. Then in the early 60s, it was my turn, so role reversal. It was still a family affair, and it was very much, I think, the intention that I would follow my father into the business and eventually would take over that business. But as I say, I had a dream. And my dream was not to be selling motor cars in Belfast, but was to be on a world stage racing at the highest level. And that was the thing that I focused upon all the way through the 5 or 6 years that I raced in Ireland. Ultimately, I had an opportunity in 1969 in England at a Formula 2 race meeting, and it gave me the understanding, as did other people around, that I had enough ability and talent to be able to go out and compete on a level playing field with the best in the world in Formula 2.
And I know you got very established at Formula 2, and that led to Formula 1. You make your first Formula 1 Grand Prix debut in 1973. I make it you're about 27 years of age then. After
well,
this.
actually, you're wrong.
Okay, go on.
I made my Formula 1 debut in Phoenix Park.
Go on.
That's got you.
Yeah.
That's got you.
Okay.
Because in 1972, a well-known Dublin motor trader, Anthony, in inverted commas, Monkey Brown.
Right.
You may not have heard of him, but he is a very good motor dealer. He bought a Formula 1 car called an Eiffelland March from another well-known motor dealer at the time, Bernard Charles Eccleston. And somewhere along the line, I'm not quite sure now, it's a long time ago, I got a phone call and said, would you drive the car at Phoenix Park? There was the August meeting. And I thought, well, I don't know much about it. I don't know who this guy is from a hole in the ground. And but I agreed. So I turned up at Phoenix Park, and the car eventually turned up. And I mean, it turned up in a pretty sad state. But got the car running, and I drove it. And that was the first time I actually drove and then raced a Grand Prix car. And then the second time that I raced a Formula 1 car was at Brands Hatch at the end of 1972, when the car had been then prepared properly by a company or a team that I would then drive for in 1974, a motor dealer again in London called Hexagon of Highgate. So we ran the car in the final non-championship race of 1972 at Brands Hatch, called the Champions Race, or Victory Race, I think it was called. And in that race, I finished 6th overall, which I think for a first time in a Formula 1 race was a good achievement, and it reflected very well on the preparation that Hexagon had done, and it was a shoestring effort, but it was actually the tease that led Hexagon to commit to Formula 1 in 1974 to a full season.
And when you did take to a grid alongside Jackie Stewart and the boys in 73, what's that like? I mean, are you completely bricking yourself, or do you arrive on the scene saying, I'm going to move over everyone, John Watson's here to take over? What kind of character were you?
Well, I was a very, fundamentally very shy person, very self-effacing. And, I mean, to be in a race, in a Grand Prix or a Formula One race, with the likes of Jackie Stewart or Denny Hulme or Graham Hill or all the other stars of that period, to me was slightly overwhelming because, I had one thing that, again, in Formula One today is singularly lacking, and that's respect for your peers. And if you saw Jackie Stewart catching you, for example, you would always be aware that if he was going quicker than you, which he would have been doing, to make sure you don't hold him up. I mean, today, I don't think anybody gives a damn, really, although there are penalties if you don't get out of people's way. But it was an attitude and a time when I revered the stars of Formula One in a Formula One race. And, I mean, if you had Denny Hulme come up to you and say, why didn't you use your mirrors and get out of the way? It was almost like being sent into Borstal and been thrashed by the principal.
Because I did see a quote from Jackie Stewart where he said of you, of a time, you were too nice to win races. Clearly, you had to shed that.
I mean, I don't. I know the quote, but I don't remember the period it was spoken in. But there's an element of truth in that, and I suppose one might say that relying on natural ability and talent in a sport like Formula One is only one part of being successful, and there is a lot of other elements and characteristics and part of human nature which, to be a success across the board over a long time, you may have to